Okay. Wonderful. So I am Elaine Provenzano. I'm the children's librarian, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce Julie Fortier. But I first want to thank Julie and Marge Pellegrino and Alice White because they came to the library back in January with this great idea that they were working on together. I think that Julie had done elsewhere. And they collaborated to create a geocaching project that includes Tuckahoe history. So I just want to again thank them for all they did to make this project come to fruition. And Julie is going to tell us all about it right now.
All right. Well, thank you, Miss Elaine. I'm going to share my screen so we can look at some visuals in support of this presentation.
And if you haven't already done so, please mute. Thank you.
Can everyone see my screen? I guess now that everyone's muted.
Yes, yes.
Okay, perfect. Excellent. All right, well, thank you. And first of all, Ms. Laney, thank you for inviting me for this program. As you mentioned, this is something that we've started to talk about months ago, and I feel really blessed to live here and have people like you who are so interested in these types of projects. So a note for everyone, if you have a good idea, just bringing forth, and there's a lot of people in town who are interested in making these things happen. So as I mentioned, my name is Julie Fortier. I've been a resident of Tuckahoe for 20 years now, and I'm super excited to be here and to tell you about the Tuckahoe Geocaching project. I wanted to let you know just my inspiration and where this came about. Last year, looking for activities to do outside, cabin fever was really striking during COVID. And I did a lot of walking. I've been a geocacher for a while, and I'm always looking for new places to hide things, wherever I go. And I discovered the Malcolm Wilson Park. I hadn't really been there. You kind of have to know where it is and how to access it. But as I was walking through, I became really curious about the history of the park. There's some paths, there's some fencing, there's some stairs, and it looked like perhaps there had been some homes on that property. So I came back home and I did a little bit of research, and the first place I went to was the Facebook site for the Tuckahoe History Committee. And I did find some information about the park, and that indeed there were some mentions there in the previous century, up until probably not that long ago. And so it gave me an idea. I was like, this is a great park to actually, hide some treasures there. But instead of just hiding things for the fun of finding them, maybe we could hide some things in places of historical importance in the village so that people can actually learn this really interesting information, like the fact that there were some mentions in that park. So that's what inspired me really to do this particular project. And then I reached out to the history committee, as you mentioned. They were very excited about the idea. So we've been working on this since January, and I'm super excited to present this program to you. So today we're going to cover a few things. First of all, what is geocaching? Some of you may know, for some of you it might be new. How does it work? And then we'll talk a little bit about the circuit we've created here in Tuckahoe, and then we'll get you started. So we'll do a little round of practice, not so much in finding, but at least getting you set up so you can start finding some treasures around the village. I'm going to ask you to hold your questions. So we'll have some practice time. We'll unmute everyone then. So, if you have a piece of paper, you have a question, just write it down and we'll cover them at that time. So what is geocaching? I put the definition here that I found on on Wikipedia that it's an outdoor recreational activity using global positioning system, so people can use GPS, can use phones, where people hide and seek special containers, or we call them caches or geocaches. And those are really all over the world. So, you know, in a nutshell, people hide things and some people find them. That's really the gist of it. And you can use a smartphone, a GPS to actually try to locate where they are. So it's not just a question of saying, you know, I placed something in that area. There's actually some rules around documenting where you actually hide something so that you can make it easier to find. Some of you may be familiar with the game Pokemon Go. So in a way, it's very similar to that, except that Pokemon Go is using augmented reality. It's not really using real objects. So this is a real, in real life kind of activity that is similar to Pokemon Go. So a little bit of history to tell you when this started. I have a feeling this started before 2000, but you know, the recent history, I will say, started in 2000 when a group started to coordinate hiding some objects. And this is in the US, it was in Oregon in year 2000. They also built a website at the time so that people could log information about where they were hiding things. But you can imagine in 2000, even though it's not that long ago, the first iPhone came out in 2007. So in order to find things, you kind of needed to have a GPS, an old school GPS. Those were fairly expensive at the time too. So this was mostly limited to people who like to do mountaineering, backpacking, boaters, so people who had those types of devices. But now, like with the advent of smartphones, everyone has a GPS, or almost everyone has a GPS in their pocket. So this has really grown in popularity, and now really all around the world, not just in the US. So a few stats that I thought you may find interesting. There's actually over 3 million active geocaches in the world. So people have hidden over 3 million treasures, let's call them that way, all over the world. They're hidden in 191 different countries on all 7 continents, and as I wrote here, even on Antarctica. And those geocaches come in all shapes and sizes. I'm going to show you what these might look like. And they can be hidden in the, you know, in plain sight, and some of them in really sneaky places. So we'll take a look at that in a second. And hopefully some of the ones in Tuckahoe are also a little bit sneaky. So all shapes and sizes. Caches can be quite large, and they can be what they call nano caches, very, very small. So so you kind of have to know what you're looking for, and we'll take a look at that in a few minutes when we do the practice round, like how you start to locate where these caches are and what they perhaps look like or what size they are. Sometimes they're clearly marked. You can see on the slide on the left where, you know, there might be a sticker on a box, or for example, I have one example here. I just put that it's an official geocache at the bottom, or sometimes with a sticker. But sometimes they're not really marked. Actually, I have another one here that is marked as well. It might be hard to see on the computer, but it says official geocache on it. So this is another example of a container. They can be camouflaged as well. Well, this one is kind of a good example of a camo one, but camouflage can be a little bit more tricky than that. So you might have a cache, for example, that looks like this. Hopefully you can see this, but you can see there's a little tube, but there's a piece of bark on top. So this might be on the side of a tree, for example. So sometimes you have to really look, you know, you have to look pretty hard to actually find some of these. So all shapes and sizes, and also in different locations. So people hide caches pretty much anywhere. You don't want to put them in places that are dangerous. They're usually not on private property either, unless it's your own home. I guess you could do that. But some caches are hidden up in trees where you might be required to climb. Some might be underwater for scuba divers, and there some at the top of a mountain, so it forces you to do a little bit of activity. I want to reassure everyone that the ones in Tuckahoe are in neither of these locations. None are at the bottom of the Bronx River. I don't think we have mountains here, except perhaps the hill by Duck Pond, but none there either, or none are up in trees either. So the ones we hid are actually quite accessible for children, for anyone who might be disabled as well. But you know, once you get you get the bite of geocaching, I hope you'll start to look for some caches in some of these interesting locations. So how does it work? So I'll break it down, and again, we'll do a demo round or a practice round a little bit later. But it starts with someone basically hiding a cache and listing the coordinates on a website that's called geocaching.com. There's also an app, but for logging, people actually do it on the website. So when we hide the cache, we need to give a little bit of information. What is the name? A description of where it is, a description of what it might look like, how big is it, and also providing hints so that, you know, it might help the people who are looking for them. So once they're logged on the website, people can access them on their phone, on their computer, and then they use the GPS location that's associated with the cache to try to locate in real life. You can use a phone, smartphone, you can use a GPS. Each cache, it might be different, but they all contain a logbook. A logbook might look like something like this. And the logbook is really for you to write that you found it. So you may want to write your name. A lot of people use code names for themselves or for their team. So for example, when we started to do it with my family, we were called, the kids decided to call ourselves Mystery Incorporated. So if you see some caches signed Mystery Incorporated, that's actually my family. I want to mention that for the Tuckahoe geocaches, you should bring your own writing instrument. And the reason for that is because some are very small. Like I showed you, for example, the one with the bark and this little tube here. There's no room for a pencil in here. But sometimes a cache like this might have a golf pencil. So, but usually if you're going on an adventure for geocaching, I would suggest you bring a marker, a Sharpie or something like that. And some of the caches contain small trinkets. Again, the very small one, it's a little bit difficult, but something that's a little bit bigger might have some treasures inside. So I'm going to show you in this one, which actually has a logbook. And I did hide a few like this in Tuckahoe, so you might come across these. And you know, there might be some treasures in there. So this is a little marble, have a little Dungeons and Dragon, piece over here. I have an Icelandic coin. I have a button, could be anything. And as you're geocaching, you're welcome to take some of these items, but you need to put something back. So you might find some little toys at, Value Drugs or other. Bring those in your pocket, and then you keep those as souvenirs of the locations where you've been, and you put something for the next person to find them. So little trinkets, I love those. I heard from people who've been finding our caches that some have left some really interesting prizes in there. Then lastly, it's important that you put the cache back and that you put it in the same location. Again, because these are documented with GPS location, it's important to put it in the same place. It happens sometimes that a cache might have been moved, or maybe with the weather might have been damaged, or maybe goes missing. let's talk about this for a second. But if you see that there's a problem with a cache, you can, when you're on the application, you can actually send a message to what we call the cache owner and explain like, oh, this cache is damaged, it's taken water, or unfortunately sometimes it goes missing, but hopefully not for the Tuckahoe Circuit. And that takes me to muggles. Some people that we want to be careful with when we're doing geocaching. You might know the term smuggles. That's a term from Harry Potter to talk about people who don't know magic. There's no magic here, but there's some people who don't know about geocaching. And you can imagine that if you're just, walking around and like, looking through bushes in a park, some people might be like, what are they looking for, right? So be careful, right? Look, be conscious of who's around you, because often what might happen is someone may see that you found something interesting and then they may just take it, which would be unfortunate. Actually, I have a cute story about this. When I hid the cache along Duck Pond a few months ago, I was very busy trying to find like a great location. And when I got done, I turned around to leave and I realized I was observed by a group of teenagers. And they started to run away and I just intercepted them. I said, please, 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 this is a scavenger hunt that I'm working on. So you're welcome to look at what I hid, but please put it back when you're done. Unfortunately, I went back the next day and it was gone. So my bad. I should have been more careful of my environment. But as you start to go and look for caches, just make sure when you can wait a little bit if you see people are around, and then locate your cache. All right, so let's talk about the Tuckahoe Circuit specifically. So there's 12 caches. To start, we've talked about adding more in the future. And those are hidden in historically significant locations around the village. What you'll also find is as you look at the stories that we've put online for you to find these caches, is that these will take you to the Facebook page for the History Committee. So all these locations, it's not just like, oh, there's history here. There's actually history that you can read about. There's photos, there's stories, there's maps. There's also comments because obviously on Facebook, those stories might get commented by people who visit them on the website as well. So these are really rich in explaining, as you're in a location, what happened in the past in this location. So the 12 locations are the following. And there's no real order to them. You can take the circuit whichever way you'd like to. You can find a cache every once in a while. Or if you want to do it all in one shot, in a nice walking tour, that's how I've organized it. So starting at Shiloh Church on Marble Dale, going to the Marble Quarry by Young Place, and then Crestwood Station, going back up to Assumption Church, and then close to Assumption Church by the railroad spur. I had no idea what that was, and I'm not going to tell you what it is because I think you should go check it out. Then the library. Then back at Village Hall, there's a question mark at Village Hall because I went to the site a couple of days ago and noticed that the cache is missing. So I'll be replacing the Village Hall cache over the next week. Then back around to Depot Square, Duck Pond by the Bronx River, the Parkway Casino, Malcolm Wilson Park, where this all started, and then ending at Parkway Oval. So some of these have been in place since probably the end of February, early March. And those caches have been found 126 times already. So some people have been actually really busy. I think a few people have completed the circuit as well. So a few notes. All caches are outside, so there's no reason when I say Shiloh, when I say Assumption Church, nothing is inside. No need to go inside of private properties, or even Village Hall, for example. As I mentioned before, they're all accessible within feet of walking paths. So most of them are actually accessible with a stroller or even with a wheelchair. And as I mentioned, if a cache is damaged or you think it's missing, just let us know and someone will go and do maintenance on the cache. Sometimes it might be because it's just hard to find though, but let us know. All right, so now super excited to talk about the library program. Everyone is invited to participate in the geocaching circuit, but there's a little incentive this summer. In addition to organizing this info session, the library is giving all residents a challenge. And basically starting tomorrow, you'll be able to pick up a geocaching passport at the library. And over the summer, we're challenging you to find 10 of the 12 caches that have been hidden. And for each cache, you'll receive a special stamp, and also you'll receive a gift once you bring your completed passport. We'll also have a very important VIP guest book for you to sign. Lonnie, do you want to show the passport and show what it looks like by any chance?
Yes, let me just put my video back on. Do you want to stop sharing for a sec and then can everybody see it?
I think people would be able to see it in the little,
yeah,
presenter
can you
window.
just stop sharing for a second? I'll
Yep.
hold it up close and then we'll come back.
Yep.
Okay, let me just remove this. I'll replace the spotlight just while we do this, and then we'll jump back in. Hold on a second.
We can see you holding it.
Can you see it? Good. Okay.
Yes, I put everybody on the screen, and so I can see it.
Great. Got it. See it? So this is the passport, and this is the inside of the passport. So it has the directions here. And then this is the little stamp that we're going to put on there when you come back. And when you get 10 of the 12 caches, we have a little historical gift for you.
Oh, I love it. Someone put a message that they found one of the caches. That's great. I'm not gonna say what it is, but that's one of my favorites that you found. Okay, so let me share my screen one more time. Okay. Wonderful. So this is the library project. So again, tomorrow you can pick up your passport, and we really look forward to hearing from you. Like when you find them, you'll be able to log them on the computer, and we'll see the progress from everyone. So we're going to do a bit of practice. I'd love to get people set up so they're ready to go and actually find some caches. So before we do, maybe we can unmute. And I don't know if anyone has any questions before we get started.
What time does the library
Zachary
open?
has a question in the chat.
Oh, are the caches in the circuit? Are they in the geocaching app?
Yep, they're all in the geocaching app. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So if you're already set up, you know what we're going to do in the next few minutes. We're actually going to get everyone set up with the app on their phone.
Okay.
If someone else has a question.
I do.
Yes.
How much access does geocaching need of your smartphone? How much do they need location, but do they ask for anything else? And is it necessary?
Well, so you'll need to create an account, but that information is really just a username, a password, and your email address. So as far as I know, that's the only information that they'll be asking for. And if you use the GPS locator, then you have the option to say, allow the geocaching app to know where I am, right? So you can, and then I believe you have a setting which is like only when I use the app, right? If you just want to use that when you're actually out in the field.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Does everyone have their cell phones ready?
Julie, Celia has a question. If I already found some, can I still do it?
Oh, of course. Absolutely.
Yeah. You just need to get your passport.
Absolutely. And if you've logged them already, just, yeah, go get your passport. You'll get some stamps already at the starting line, which is great. Okay, so if people are ready to go through this exercise, I'll give the instructions to set up your phone. People can also follow on the website. The website is not as convenient because obviously you're probably not going to carry your laptop to go and find caches, but you can see what it looks like if you're using your computer by going to www.geocaching.com. On the phone, I'll suggest that you download the app. Yep, that's perfect, Zach. That's exactly what we'll be doing. If you don't want to download the app, you can also use the website. It's a responsive website, so it will just like shrink everything down that you would see on the website, but on your phone. All right, so let me go to the next slide. I'm going to show you what it looks like. So if you want to do this in real time, I think that would be the best idea. And then if you hit, a bit of a roadblock, we'll try to help you, or, we can follow up with you after this call. But the first thing to do is to basically download the app from the App Store or from the Google Store, depending on what type of phone you have. So you can see it's called Geocaching, and then you basically download that to start. So I'll give you guys a few minutes. And actually, I'm going to get my phone. I realized that I don't have my phone with me. I'll be right back. Anyone has a hard time finding the app on the App Store? Oh, good so far. And once it's downloaded, you can launch the app. And at that point, it should ask you to log in or register. So you're going to need to register. Yep, perfect. You're going to need to register with a username, an email address, and a password. Yep, you're in. How's it going, Marge? Are you doing it in real time? Excellent. So far, so good, everyone. Now, what you'll see is that when you create your account, there's two types of account. There's a free account and there's a premium account. You can just simply create a free account. A premium account is mostly for people who do this a lot. Some people do geocaching and find hundreds of caches a year, or who use it, there's additional functions for people to hide. Start with the free account, and if you really catch the bug, then you can always upgrade to a premium account. You'll see more caches once you're in the premium account. If you're done creating your account, maybe you could use the raise your hand or just a little clap or something in the app, so that'll give me a sense of who's ready for us to move on. You have a question? Okay, Sal is all good. Does anyone need a little bit more time to set up their account? No, you're all good?
No,
Okay.
I don't have mine set up. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. We have the email for any help after this call. We'll be happy to help you get set up. Obviously, it may take a little bit longer depending on your phone connection and whatnot, but I'll go through the rest of the steps. You'll see it's actually quite easy. So once you're all registered, you're on the app, and you can see in step number 3 that you can search for caches. So if you enable the app to know where you are, it's going to find caches automatically around you. So when I launch my app, it looks like this. There might be less on yours because I'm using the premium account here. And also it's showing me my caches. So the yellow ones are the ones that I hid. But you're going to see a number of caches around the village. And you can zoom in, you can zoom out, and you can click on any of these caches. So for example, I'm going to click on this one here, and you see, I don't know if you see, but it says Main Street School, Village Hall, right? And that's
Julie,
the name
we're
of
not saying the specifics on there.
Yeah, that's okay. Just wanted to get a sense
Okay.
of, like, you see the map, and then you see the information at the bottom. It's the same thing on the slide. The one that's on the slide is from the Bronx River from Duck Pond. So I'm going to select one. So for example, on this slide, there's one at Shiloh Baptist Church. So I'm going to click on it. And again, at the bottom, it tells me this is Shiloh, but then I can click on this bar and I'm going to get the information about the cache, just like you see on the big screen that I'm sharing. And from here, there's a few things you can do. So you can scroll down, you will see, first of all, you can navigate to the cache. So if I click on this, it's basically going to tell me, okay, you need to go in that direction. You know, and it's going to help you, guide you, just like if you had a compass in your hand. So if I do navigate, this is what it looks like, just like the middle slide that I just showed, right? So this one is 0.6 mile from me, and it's telling me the direction.
Where is navigate?
On this screen here, once you select a cache,
Yes.
you see the big button on the top says navigate, and the other one says log. And then underneath it, it's going to tell you the difficulty, the terrain, and the size of this cache. So for example, at Shiloh, it says 1.5 difficulty, meaning like how difficult is it to find it? How sneaky? The terrain, so level 1 is the easiest. You can access even in a wheelchair. And then how small is it? So this one is a size 2. So this would be, you know, a very small one. But something like this, for example, which is just a film canister, is a little bit bigger. So that might be the size that we have at Shiloh Church. And then if you scroll down, there's some other information that's really interesting. First of all, the description. So if I look at the description, you will see that historical information about Shiloh is actually in the description, right? So it tells me the Shiloh Baptist Church is in Tuckahoe is almost 110 years old, and basically a few paragraphs about the story and a link to see some photos and maps and other information on the Facebook website. So I really encourage everyone to look at the description. That's really at the heart and soul of this whole project, is for you to appreciate the great history of our village. And then the other thing that's really helpful is looking at activity. And activity I put in on the slide in this image 6. Log your success in the app and in your passport, but also you see everyone's successes here. So if I look at Shiloh, someone found it a couple of weeks ago, says, gee, another pretty spot you've chosen here. I felt my way around a bit till the cache jumped out at me, thanks, right? So when you find one, you will hit the other green button, right, log, which is right next to navigate, and then you enter information. So I found it today. I was with my family. It was a beautiful day. You can put a photo, which I encourage you to do because that's really fun. And then you can see also photos from other people. Don't put a photo of where the cache is, because that would kind of defy the purpose, but you can take a photo of the cache, or you can take a photo like of you holding the cache, right? But not of the location. So next, I put a photo here to show you what this might look like once you link to the Facebook site. So as I mentioned, if you look at the description, you'll have a link and it will take you to the Facebook page where you'll find all these amazing, photos, maps, in this case, an old news article about an event that took place at Parkway Oval. And then lastly, just put the cache back, put it back in its place. You may take something from it, you may put something in it. But once you've done all that, you've completed one of the caches, you've logged it, and then you can go to the library, get your stamp, or find another, right? Any questions on how this actually works? If anyone wants help to get set up, Elaine, maybe we can figure out a moment where we can have some people at the library. I'd be happy to stop by at some point over the weekend and help people get set up with their app. We can do that as well. So.
Yes, I would say feel free to contact us. If you want to email us at, you can email me at eprovenzano@WL. I'll put it in the chat so you have it.
Great.
And we'd be happy to help you out.
Are there any questions? Well, right before we wrap up, I just want to share a couple of the comments that we've received so far. So I mentioned 126 times those caches have been found. And there's a few that, I think are really sweet messages. The one at Shiloh, actually, someone wrote, "It took a few minutes to track this one down. After replacing the container, we met a church parishioner and we had a very nice chat about the church. Very nice history here." At Marble Quarry, what a nice park. We would have never known about this place or its history. And Parkway Oval is also fun. I think someone on this meeting has found that one. A nice park, especially today with the mild temperatures. Had a nice walk where we found the container easily. Enjoyed the pugilistic history of the area. So tell us your story. If it's also a place in the village that's of importance to you, let us know what's going on, and share your photos. We'd really love to know. It really brings me a lot of joy to find when to get a message that someone actually found one of our caches. So
We have a couple of Julie, we have a couple of questions.
Oh yeah.
Eve
Okay. Yep.
asked, where do you get the log books?
I answered that for her.
Oh, you did?
Okay.
Okay, Zachary, thank you.
I can put my answer in the chat.
Sure, that'd be great.
Thank you. Yeah, each cache should have a log book inside of it. So I'm just going to open this one up because I've used it as an example, but you can imagine this one actually I think would need a paperclip to be able to take it out. So this one is actually really, really small. Oh, here's one of my favorite. This is a cache. It's a little gnome. It opens up, and then there's a little logbook inside. So you would need to unroll it and write your name. And I will share with you that this little dude's brother is somewhere in the village. Any other questions?
Marge and Alice,
Right.
did you have anything you wanted to add from the History Committee?
You're on mute. I don't think we can hear you.
You can say it now.
There you go.
Oh, this is wonderful. Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, well, thank you for supporting this project. This is so exciting, and I'm so glad, like, as soon as I reached out to the committee, your team has been just amazing in supporting this. So it's a wonderful collaboration.
This is so wonderful for our history.
Absolutely.
Yes, I had a question. If we're traveling on vacation someplace, do we just log in and then all these things are going to pop up so we can go searching?
That's exactly right. You can go to France, to Italy, to Canada, wherever you go. Obviously, there's some issues with like your data plan, so be careful with that. but I'm going to New Mexico in a few weeks, and we'll certainly be geocaching. So sometimes just take out the app, and you're like, oh, there's one there's one close by. And you will be surprised. Even in Westchester County, there's some areas, especially around Larchmont, Hastings, there's so many caches. So it's a great way to have a fun family activity, and also to keep little children active and entertained. Sometimes it's hard to keep them out for a long while, but believe me, if there's a treasure at the end of the walk, they'll walk for a long time.
Well, we want to thank you, Julie, for putting this presentation together, because I think it really helps people, especially, like I said, I have never done geocaching. I've learned so much through creating this project, and we're here to support you. So if you have any questions, you can email us, you can call the library. We look forward to seeing you at the library, picking up your passports, and eventually collecting your little historical gift. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a great weekend. Have a great evening. It's only Wednesday. I'm already saying the weekend. And we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks so much again.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Thank you for organizing. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.